This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today, we have a lovely neighbor on with us, and that is Ashley Ziltener of North Valley Medical Aesthetics. What's going on, huh?
Not much. Beautiful day out today. So sunny.
Beautiful out there. I was around 8:30 this morning. I was having a coffee on the back deck with my dog, and there was no humidity. And then I had to come back up to my office at 9 o'clock. And right just before 9 o'clock, I was starting to feel that humidity coming in. I think it's going to feel like 33 today. So I think summer is officially here.
It's official. I know I put the air conditioning on when I'm in the clinic right now. So when I came in, it was 76 degrees. I was like, okay, I guess I got to do it now.
Yeah, right. Okay, so we have never had the opportunity to meet one another yet. I'm pretty curious, Kat, so I want to kind of dive right into it, and I'm sure our listeners do as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, so it's North Valley Medical Aesthetics is the name of it. I'm a skincare clinic located in the heart of Barrie on Bayfield Street. I've been around now for over 5 years is when I first opened up the doors to North Valley. I got into doing cosmetic nursing. So that's my background is nursing. So a nurse-led clinic. And I've been a nurse for almost 18 years. I got into cosmetic side of nursing, which was completely foreign previously. Care actually. So I was a director of long-term care. I did a lot of quality initiatives, including one of them where we used Botox on the medical side of things. So that's where I was first introduced to it back in 2010 for spasticity, contractures, spasms, things like that. And then I got into the cosmetic world in 2017. So I'm an artist. I paint. I love painting facial features in particular. So the opportunity came about where one of the reps I worked with, who I did the project, the initiative with Botox, noticed I was ambidextrous. So I write with my left hand, I paint with my left hand. During that day of injections, I was injecting with both hands. And she's like, that's kind of crazy. I'm like, it just feels natural. This is what I do. So, and then she saw in my office at the time, I had some of my paintings on the wall. And she's like, you got to get into cosmetics. And I said, that's crazy. There was such a stigma back then too. And we look like 7 years ago when I first got into it and then opened the business at the 5-year mark. So there was a different stigma. And I really got into the industry to kind of change that. And there wasn't any nurse-led businesses really new in the Barrie area. There was more physician-run businesses. And I was like, well, can there be a nurse-led business? Well, absolutely, So that's kind of why I opened it and wanted to really change the stigma too of you can achieve natural looking results, So I realized I found a passion where science met artistry, and I was able to kind of put those two together. And yeah, that's kind of how I got the idea of going into it. So there was a few, competitors of physician run businesses at the time. There's so many now that are doing what I do, but not how I do it. We all do things a little bit differently, right? So yeah, that's kind of why I got into it. So yeah, we do everything that has to do with the skin when it comes to anti-aging and rejuvenation. So Botox, fillers, lots of different injectables as well. Biostimulants, which is things to produce collagen, facials, other modalities of resurfacing the skin and things like that, skincare, all those things too.
So let's talk a little bit about the skincare, because there's obviously the medical aesthetic side. Do you guys offer, facials and stuff like that, or just more on the medical side?
Nope, we do facials too. It's medical grade facials, just meaning that There's professional products out there, then there's medical grade, so a little bit higher concentration. Being a registered nurse and also like a skincare therapist, we have access to things that more actives and just higher percentages. So, but we do facials. That's quite popular.
So for somebody who may not be overly familiar, maybe even somebody like myself, when you're using a lot of fancy buzzwords, so can you dumb it down for me when you're talking about a medical grade? Like what does that mean for somebody who doesn't know this kind of stuff?
So, well, everyone can come in for a free consult where I would use more dumber down language. But it just means like actives such as vitamin C, salicylic acid. Salicylic comes from salt, so it's really good for acne prone skin, like in a chemical peel.
Right.
And there's other acids like lactic acid, which comes from milk or tomatoes. That's used on like sensitive skin or even pregnancy skin. So we can use those types of treatments to resurface the skin. And then there's glycolic acid, that as well. So when it comes to the level of percentages, how much is in the ingredients, we have access to doing a little bit more.
And what would be the benefit for having a higher percentage?
More results driven. I'm all about the results. Yeah. So when you come in, I give honest feedback. Not everyone's a good candidate. And if there's other services even outside of my practice where you may be more beneficial, for example, because of COVID, I was a business that, had to survive during that hardship. So some of the services that I offered, I've had to retire some of them, including one called IPL. IPL is a type of laser for pigment to the skin. So for example, if I can't achieve it with the modalities that I can offer for pigment, certain types of pigment to the skin, then I have other colleagues in the industry where I refer them to their practice instead for that type of treatment. So everyone comes in for a free consult. I'll determine whether or not you're a good candidate, work with the budget that you have, the needs and goals and the treatments that would be most beneficial for you. We'll make up a little treatment plan and then we go from there. So what's cool is that I have a skin analysis machine. So it takes 3D type pictures of your skin and it can give me feedback as to how much moisture is in your skin, how much sun damage is there. It can also read how much bacteria is sitting on the surface. So if, for example, you mentioned about facials, which is kind of like an intro into this type of industry, I can tailor exactly what kind of ingredients and what kind of treatment I'm going to use during that facial based off of how your skin is in that current day. And then we can compare down the road as well.
Very nice. So like a kind of a custom tailored approach. Everybody's unique when they come in because the skin, obviously, being the largest organ in our body, it's very different. People have oily skins and people have acne prone skin. There's lots of different types out there from that perspective.
And once you know your skin type, then it's so funny to have this conversation with you, Sean, because it's usually like I have a female audience that I talk about this stuff to. But once you know your skin type, then you know what kind of ingredients work. That's the difference between coming from, a big box Sephora store, going in there and getting skincare from someone who is on the retail side. They may have some product knowledge of those products in particular, but they didn't go to school for, a skin therapist or a nurse background or a medical esthetician background. So you're kind of just like picking things off the shelf because it looks good and it sounds nice. Ooh, I want that skin type. Well, you don't even have that to begin with. So the difference is when you come in here, we do that, and then you have access to me. I'm on call. I respond back to messages all the time. And I monitor you. So, I don't just leave you hanging once I give you all this skincare. I'm checking in on you and making sure that we're meeting those goals. And if we're not, well, why? Well, my skin's dry. Okay, well, let's bump up hydration. That's why it's dry. You're using a lot of active ingredients now, cells are turning over faster. So now we need to reassess it again. So it's constantly moving and constantly like testing, for me, constantly testing the boundaries and pushing the skin to the limit, you know, because that's what drives results. And when you see those results, that makes you happy too. So that's the difference, is that you don't just leave here with a bunch of skincare and that's it. There's that monitoring, there's that follow up, and then reassessing once you're done. You know, when people reorder, I'm like, I noticed you reordered online. You can order online on my online boutique. And I'll say, we're going to change that up a little bit, because let's bump things up further and keep that cells turning over faster. I'm all about the, like I said, the results. So a little bit more downtime sometimes when I do certain facial procedures. So I always say, you know, you may not like me now, but you'll love me in a week from now. And that's always the case.
Oh yeah, everything takes time. You got to trust the process. There's a lot of layers to the skin as well too. And especially if you have bad eating habits, you know, a lot of this stuff is like holistic. Do you go as far as, you know, taking clients when they come in to take a look at what their eating habits are? And are you drinking too much caffeine? Is that why you have dehydrated skin? And then also taking a look at their skincare regimen and what they're doing and what products they're using, and identifying those ingredients within those products to say, hey, here's a little educational piece. This is bad. You got to stop using this.
Exactly. So everyone does like a health intake questionnaire, so I can get a background. You know, certain, even they'll fill it out and they'll say, oh yeah, no medications. And I'm like, nothing over the counter, nothing. They're like, no. And then they start listing, oh yeah, I have a multivitamin and I'm on this and I'm on that. I'm like, okay, let's break all of that down. And a lot of times I'm giving some feedback and suggestions of how to use those supplements and when to use them. And that's what's so great about having a nursing background. You're getting that side of an assessment, along with the skills of, you know, that esthetician, skin therapist hat as well. So you're kind of getting a bit of both worlds. But yeah, you do have to break those down, because there's so many external factors as to why. And it's usually around, and that's the thing as well. I always say, don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me what you're actually doing. Like, are you actually washing your face in the morning? Are you washing it at nighttime? You know, because like they have they tell me this beautiful routine, and I'm like, well, if that's the case, then why are you here? I'm like, are you actually doing that? It's the same thing in nursing. You know, people would come in and they're like, oh yeah, I take you know, this medication every single day. And I'm like, do you actually take it every single day? And then you start kind of like realizing, okay, they're not that routine. So this is why, you know, things are presented the way it is. So yeah, it is it's, you know, it's the full thing, right? So it's not like the hole in the body, it's the body of the whole body together, right? So you kind of have to look at all those factors.
Yeah, my middle sister, my younger sister, she's a certified skincare therapist, and she lived with me for 3 years, and I've been, you know, kind of by her side in her journey with her business and stuff. So obviously I have a knowledge level of some of this stuff, and it's a little comical listening to you say what you just said, because she absolutely expresses the same thing with clients coming in and telling them they have this glorious routine, and then finding all of these holes in after, you know, because people don't want to necessarily be honest. But if you're going to come in and talk to a professional, that's definitely, you need to be honest about all this, or else they won't be able to do their job.
Did she ever like practice on you, like doing routines and facials and stuff?
Yeah, so it's funny. I got to hook you up with her. She'll tell you some funny stories of the grudge she has for me, because I got blessed in the family with skin. I got my mom's skin, and I guess my sister's got my dad's skin. I don't know, you know, the detail level of the difference, but like, I don't really break out or have to do much in terms of a routine. But you know, she's brought me into her spa a few times, and I've got the full treatment for the facial and all of that kind of stuff. So I've got a bit of experience on kind of what that process looks like, and so on and so forth.
Nice. Do you do a routine yourself?
I don't do a routine. I've never really, you'd probably argue and say, well, Sean, you should do a routine because, you know, of the anti-aging process and that kind of thing. And Maybe I just need a little bit more of a kick in the butt with that kind of stuff. But I do have a pretty good brushing my teeth routine. I do the floss, then I'm doing the mouthwash after the whole bit. So maybe I just need to add a little 5 to 10 minutes there and keep that going.
Yeah. Well, at least we're like a mineral-based sunscreen.
Yes.
Cheapest, like that's the most cost-effective, cheapest anti-aging product you can use is just good old mineral-based sunscreen.
So I use a daily hydration moisturizer, and then I apply that, and then I lock it in with her sunscreen that she uses, which is also a moisturizer as well. So I got that going at least every day, and she tells me I got to apply it at least 2 to 3 times a day. So I'll put it in my little cooler when I'm out in the car driving around, and try to, even when you're in the car, I've been told you can age pretty quick because the sun is a lot more powerful than it was back in the day.
Sean, I just asked you if you had a routine. You're like, no, I don't do anything. I just got blood like this. And then you're like, well, I actually do. And I carry my sunscreen around with me.
Yeah, I guess, I'm turning a little red now. Good thing my background is orange because it's hiding it a bit. But, when you think of routine, I guess that's what people get in their own head, right? They get, okay, a routine's got to be like a 5-step process. It's got to be when I'm brushing my teeth. But really, that's not the case at all.
No. And you know what? I have some clients who are like, that's too many steps, Ashley. I can't do it. And then I say, well, then you're combining your lotion with your sunscreen. That just became one step instead, So trying to condense things. The more steps, the more complex it can be in someone's eyes. And then the more things you have to do, a lot of people don't want to do it, right? So if I give them the routine, I'm like, I'm hoping that they'll do 3 of those 6 steps at least. So meet me halfway,
Totally. So you got the skincare side, and then you got the medical aesthetic side. Do you kind of specialize in one more than the other, or is it pretty much, kind of straight across the board?
So I'm more towards injectables. That's mostly what I do. I do this full time. A lot of nurse-led businesses still have other hats in other sectors, working in the hospital and whatnot, but this is what I do full time. The majority of my day is those injectables. That is really what I'm personally myself known for, is my injectables. So the top ones being Botox and fillers.
So fillers is pretty straightforward in my opinion, but for Botox, maybe we can spend a couple of minutes. And if somebody's listening to the show, let's say they might not be fully aware of Botox and the benefits of Botox, could you maybe touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, and a lot of people actually don't know the difference between Botox and fillers. So Botox, muscle relaxer. So for example, any dynamic movement on the face, so raising eyebrows up, making angry face around the eyes, sad face, things like that, those are the areas that you treat with Botox. So they use a lot of more mature injectors will say Botox here up, fillers here down. That's not the case. Been a lot of advancements with Botox, and Botox is quite successful when it comes to the lower face as well. For myself, I'm an advanced expert injector, so I do a lot of Botox, even in the neck. I'll do it along the jawline, areas where a lot of my clients are like, I didn't know you could do that. I'm like, yes, you sure can. So Botox muscle relaxer, small little needles. They are like the size of an insulin needle, if you know what that looks like. So they're really, really small. They feel like a mosquito bite when you get the injection, or some areas you don't feel it even at all. I do a lot of techniques to distract you during your injections too. So if I have a client that comes in with a fear of needles, it's needles in your face. Like there's sometimes a kind of a fear. They're like, oh gosh, 1, what am I going to look like? 2, is it going to hurt? 3, I woke up this morning not feeling the greatest. Like now I'm nervous about going and getting needles in my face. So there's lots of like little things that I do to help distract during the actual procedure. And then it takes 2 weeks for it to fully kick in. So what happens is Botox connects to the muscle, sends a signal, tells it to slow down moving, relaxing that muscle. And then as a result, because the muscle's relaxed, it's not making those little etched in lines anymore. So then the skin, along with that muscle in particular, looks more softer, more rejuvenated, more youthful. So, around the crow's feet, it's not as, when you smile, it's not as harsh. I always take in consideration, everybody has a natural kind of like smile line. And I take that in consideration because you don't want to look frozen. Frozen's not cool. Frozen's out.
Right.
Um, it's more undetected Botox is key, and that's what I do. I'm more conservative with treatments in terms of doses that my medical director approves of. More conservative with how much we inject because a little bit of movement and expression is still nice. So that's Botox. So relaxes muscles and stops a lot of dynamic movement in the face. Whereas fillers fill. So fillers adds volume, gives augmentation. So, if you don't have a chin, we can kind of give that projection of more of a chin. If you have thin, small lips, we can add filler to the lips to make them more plump and youthful. There's a lot of different types of fillers out there. But the ones that we use are mostly what's called hyaluronic acid fillers. Hyaluronic acid fillers, our bodies naturally make hyaluronic acid. They're a synthetic form, obviously, but they're dissolvable. So there's some fillers out there that are non-dissolvable. There's still some that are kind of lingering around that are still Health Canada approved, believe it or not. But we mostly just use hyaluronic acid fillers. It's safe. It's very well tested. And a lot of people think I don't want to look overdone. I don't want my spouse or my partner to know that I got my lips done, for example. Or if I add some filler to the cheeks or something like that, they're nervous about other people knowing because there can be some swelling. There's more risk of a bruise when it comes to fillers than it is with Botox. Botox is quite straightforward. Fillers take 2 weeks minimum for it to fully settle, maybe a little bit longer, depending on lifestyle habits like smoking. If you did get a bruise, then it takes a little bit longer there too. But it adds more volume, more plumpness to the skin overall. So a little bit more downtime. One syringe is like the size of a blueberry. So people think like they're going to look crazy and their face is going to look like this and they'll look like a Cabbage Patch doll or like big Kardashian lips, no offense. But that's actually, it's quite challenging to do so with the size of a blueberry. So if I'm taking that little blueberry and cutting it in half and putting it on like the upper and the lower lip, it's not actually a lot of product. It's how it's placed. And that's where you have to have artistry. So there's over probably 250 nurses that are getting into cosmetic nursing now, especially since COVID. The number is probably even more in Ontario. So that means that every year when we're renewing a registration, over 250 are declaring that they are now in cosmetic nursing. But after 1 year of renewal, there's probably about 50 that are staying in the practice. It's hard. A lot of people, when they get into this, they also are looking at, now I need to build a business. So you could be an injector and work for a practice. It's challenging to find jobs like that. You need to bring clientele with you most of the time. You need to have 3 years of experience, this and that. So it comes a little bit more challenging. So it's like you're learning a completely new skill along with entering into like the field of owning your own business. And it's not as easy as it looks, right? So people are like, oh my gosh, it's so fruitful. I'm sure it's very lucrative doing cosmetic nursing. Yeah, it is for me, but I know I'm really good at what I do. And my clients are repeats and they come back. And it took me a while to build that clientele. So I train other nurses and physicians on how to do injections. And, sometimes they just don't have the eye. So it is art. It's not just, okay, put it right there and that's it. It's so individualized. Every single person's anatomy is completely different. It's not textbook. So that's where you need to kind of have a passion for when it comes to really just the artistry and knowing what's beautiful.
Are there any myths or misconceptions when it comes to like Botox and filler and medical aesthetics?
There's so much. There's so much. Actually, I'm doing an Instagram live later on this month of debunking the common myths of like Botox and fillers with another, it's all about community over competition. That's what I always say. So I'm doing it with another nurse-led practice. We're doing it on Instagram. But there's lots of misconceptions. One, am I going to look fake? Well, if you go to a pore injector, it's so interesting. The first question that I get when I answer the phone, how much per unit? Per unit is what Botox is measured in. It's measured in units. So they're like, how much per unit? I'm like, that should be the last question you ask me. It should be, how long have you been doing this for? Do you have an emergency protocol? How often do you inject? Have you ever had complications? I've never asked any of those questions. So when I tell them, I'll answer that question and I'll let them know. They're like, okay, thank you. I'm just shopping around. I said, great. I'm so happy you're shopping around. Some questions that you should ask, and I give them those questions, like I never even thought about it. Didn't even think about it. I just assumed everyone did the same thing. No, we're all trained differently. We all do things a little bit differently. And, continuous education is a must in this industry because it's constantly evolving. Technology is changing, new products are coming out, and it's an industry where you have to keep up with the Joneses. So there's more to it. We make it look easy sometimes, like just needles in the, little few needles here and there, a little sprinkle, and that's a lunchtime procedure type thing. But there's a lot that happens behind the scenes of what we're thinking as we're injecting too. So yeah, there's lots of myths out there. Will I look fake? If I stop doing injections, what will happen? That's a big one. So if you stop doing Botox, well, then your muscles will start to gain movement again, and it'll be like how it was the day that you got injections. So it doesn't change the elasticity of your skin. It's muscle. It's not the actual staying in just like the subcutaneous tissue. It's a muscle relaxant in particular. So if you stop doing injections, you'll discontinue normal aging process. That's a big one is, am I going to look fake? Am I going to, what happens afterwards? And is it permanent? No, it's not permanent. It wears off. So Botox only can last 3 to 4 months. It's a medication. So it has a peak of 2.5 months, and then it slowly fizzles off, where you kind of repeat it every 3 to 4 months. There's some clients who are like, well, my friend gets it and it's every 6 months. Well, they're a unicorn and their muscles are remembering not to flex as much. And unfortunately, your muscles aren't. Your muscles are flexing again. Lifestyle habits. So if you're an very active lifestyle, or even into the actual bodybuilding lifestyle too, then you're naturally burning through things faster. So if you burn through things faster, or if you have a medical condition like hyperthyroidism, where your thyroid is overactive, then you're going to burn through things a little bit faster too, right? So yeah, it's temporary. It doesn't last forever. It will wear off.
So do you find you're doing a lot of educating?
Yeah. And I have clients who have come to me from other practices. Oh yeah, like I've done Botox a million times, blah, 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 blah. And then when I start asking them questions, like, why are you asking me that? No one's ever asked me that question before. So for example, I'll ask them, like, have you had any vaccines or any antibiotic usage over the last 2 weeks? Or any history of cold sores if I'm doing something around the mouth. And they're like, no one's ever asked me that before. And I was like, well, antibiotics is because it's immune triggering, and Botox is immune triggering as well. It'll awaken your immune system because it's a medication to see if there's any risk, no risk, and then your immune system kind of quiets down again. So if you're busy fighting an infection, then the efficacy of your injections aren't potentially going to be as good. So I make people wait. I'm like, come back, wait the time, we'll do it then. Cold sores, well, it's because I'm injuring the skin. So if I injured the skin in an area where you're potentially used to getting cold sores, then I'm going to trigger a cold sore on top of it. So, that's where you need a nurse that has experience of nursing. I have a lot of new nurses, and God love them. They have I get emails. I'm in nursing school and I'm doing it because I want to get into cosmetic nursing. Are you hiring? Are you doing shadowing? Things like that. And I always say that's awesome. You can come shadow me anytime, but you need to have some background of floor nursing before you get into this. That's for sure.
And floor nursing gives what to the tool belt?
It gives a good rapport of the bedside. So when you're used to dealing with someone, going in a room, assessing them, having that physical communication with them, reviewing their medications, knowing what those medications are. When we go through nursing school, we take a pharmacology course, we do all that. But sometimes there's things that you may not remember. There's medications you may not know, So is it going to have a reaction? Things like that. If somebody passes out on you, it happens. It's happened to me quite a few times, actually. There's a medical term for that, where the thought of getting needles in their face, whatever it could be that they didn't eat anything yet today. I always ask, like, did you have something to eat? Did you drink some water today? Then I kind of have a feel of what they're going to be like. So if they were to pass out, do you know how to handle that situation? Especially if like in the room by yourself, right? So you need to have like those triage skills to be able to handle any situation that could happen.
Yeah, I would be that guy. I got this skill from I don't know if it's a skill. I don't know what the proper word for that is, but my mother's pretty queasy. So I ended up having to go get blood drawn like late last year. And I omitted telling him because I was like, I'm not going to pass out. I'm just going to like think of other thoughts. It's going to be good. So of course, you get 225 pounds of, lean lug of a man just passed right out over, almost bent the needle in half. Like, it was terrible.
Oh my gosh. Did they have to take a lot of blood from you or no?
No, that's the problem.
Okay, I'll tell you something. I can inject all day, all night, probably blindfolded, but I would never actually do that. However, when it comes to myself, I hate getting my blood drawn. I am always assessing them and I'm like, okay, I hope that they're like are good with that. And I tell them exactly, I'm like, this is the vein. It's always like predictable. You'll have no problem with there. I hate getting blood work done. My son is like, he's 15 and a half. He just got blood work done last week. And it was the most dramatic thing. I'm like, I wonder where he gets it from. I was like that when I was little.
Yeah, like, there it is right there.
Arm. I was like, no, she didn't. She did not. She was actually quite good.
So I'm a big believer in, I like to call it a work-life harmony, not a balance, because we work a little bit more than we play and stuff like that. It's a great way to get to know the person on the other side of the screen as well too. So when you're not working on your business or in your business, because you do that a lot, obviously from the conversation, very knowledgeable. It's been very enlightening. I think people who are listening to the show today have learned a lot, not only about your qualifications and skills, but about a lot of what you do in your field. But when you're not working, what does Ashley like to do for fun?
I know it seems like now I've gotten systems in place. I think during COVID, it really opened up a platform of doing things online and coming out with like solutions to like simplify stuff too. Like there's so many new apps and things like that. So I have a lot of systems in place that allow, for example, online booking. So most of my clients just go on the portal themselves. They'll book in their appointment, instead of me having to manually send them all these consent forms and things like that, I have a system that just does it automatically. So it's great. So my admin part of my life, which was a lot, is less. So since I've hit, well, I'm in my late 30s now. And when I hit my 30s, I thought to myself, there's a saying that says, growing old is mandatory, but growing up is optional. I never once learned how to ski. I never did any sports growing up. I was so non-athletic, and I had no, like, my son's a natural athlete. He can just pick something up and just flow with it. I'm
Yeah.
jealous. I had to work so hard. In my 30s, finally learned how to ski. So I love skiing now. I golf now. Horrible golfer. I went to the driving range last night and it was embarrassing, but I enjoy it. I love it. And that's the thing. I am now working out, and I've never worked out before either. I just I just didn't do it. And now I want to okay, I want to live to be 100, and I want to see my grandchildren. I would love my son to have a kid. So I want to live with I want to live that era healthy and energetic and be able to keep up with them all. So I'm outside a lot. I do a lot of outside stuff. So if I'm not working at the clinic and I'm either on my paddleboard, golf, skiing, and I have a really cool new e-bike that I just got. This e-bike looks like a motorcycle though. It doesn't look like an e-bike. I used to ride a motorcycle back in the day, so I was excited to get that. So that's my new thing now.
Yeah, my parents, they both got e-bikes. They live in Midhurst. They're 10-minute drive. So they're on the e-bikes. They're about a 30-minute bike ride because they can just helps motor up the hills the whole bit. They said it's absolutely phenomenal, the e-bikes, because you can go just longer distances, and especially if you're going up and down terrain, makes it a little bit easier. I golf as well. Love to golf. A lot of fun. You got to golf at least twice a week if you want to improve your golf game, though. So, average golfer, nothing crazy. Sometimes I crank it down the middle. Most often than not, I turn my hips before my hands come through. That's my latest issue. And I crank it, but I crank it in the bush that way. So I'm losing a lot of golf balls. Let's put it that way.
So are you a lefty or a righty?
I'm a righty for everything.
Okay. So being ambidextrous, I have golf clubs that are left and I have one that was right, but I'm only doing left.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm learning that. And yeah, mine always go to the right, and it just kind of gears that way. But last night I went with my friend and he showed me a different position with my feet, and then it changed and I was going straight.
Yeah, there's so many crazy mechanics in a golf swing that it basically the whole component is the club square at contact, and there's so many different factors from your hands to your posture to your shoulders. Are you moving them all? Slower backswing, in your feet position, all of that factors. And there's 1,000 things you need to think of when you're doing it, which obviously is not good. And so try to always nail it down to 1 or 2, max 3 things when you're going. And that's why you have to play so often. So I've got this crazy appreciation for all of these PGA Tour professional golfers. When I don't always watch it on TV, there's one major tournament around my birthday in April every year. I watch that religiously, and it's crazy what they could do, spin the golf ball, all this stuff. I try to spin it and I chunk it. I take a big beaver tail of turf this big, but super fun. I mean, there's never a bad day on the golf course, right?
So even last night I broke probably 6 or 7 of them. The tees, that's my thing. I break them all. I don't tear up the green too much, but I break all my tees.
Yeah, so I use a plastic tee, and I've had the same tee for 5 years now.
So I ran out of my wood ones, so I opened up a box last night of plastic ones that I had, and I only used the one for the remaining of
Nice. So sometimes in life we always, I guess not sometimes, but everybody picks, right? Everybody picks a path to go on. It's, at whatever junction that they're at. Sometimes people change paths as we kind of move forward through life. And it's always a path that we think, as humans, this is the right path for me. And then we go down that path based off our goals, based off a lot of different things, our needs, our wants, our desires, everything, our dreams. And then life always decides to get in the way. It'll get in the way at some point. It does for everybody. And sometimes it comes in different shapes and forms. Sometimes it's a tragic thing that happens. Sometimes it'll put you on a different path completely, pull a Larry, I like to call it, or give you a 180, or to pull an immovable object in front of you. You got to now climb that over that object, metaphorically speaking. And yeah, I've always been, pretty impressed with human beings in general, how they're able to kind of overcome a lot of these, life challenges, these hardships, holding on to hope, figuring out different ways, finding silver linings. When somebody tragically passes away from cancer, like, how do you live through moving forward in life? Because we have to move forward in life. And so we asked this question on the show: if you've ever experienced a hardship, a life challenge, maybe you rose above it, maybe it made you better. Did you pull any silver linings from it?
Yeah. So I would say my divorce. I'm divorced now. It's been over 2.5 years almost now. That completely changed who I am. I'm a better person now, I think. I've grown so much, and I'm a better mom, and I'm a better business owner now. So, for me, being told that I won't be able to do it, and I used that like fuel to ignite. And I think I've got my redemption from it all. And that was a challenge. So I was located on the south end of Barrie beforehand. The person that I was with owned the building I was in. So I kind of had to move locations, and it was the best thing. I'm so grateful that I actually ended up doing that. So yeah, that was a huge trial and tribulation. Unfortunately, it was a situation where court and trial and all those things was part of it. But it is what it is. Like you said, like the only way in life is through it. You have no choice. You have to keep going. And I'm a very optimistic person. I'm very positive. When someone says something to me, I'm like, oh, well, it is what it is. Nothing surprises me anymore. And it will take a lot to surprise me. And I don't get surprised much. And yeah, like, find the best in it. These are the cards you're dealt with. What's the solution? Deal with it. So, I'm constantly I'm very fluid, and things are always evolving. And as a business owner now too, only doing this type of business too, I've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work, when it comes to the business side of things. So yeah, kind of learned it all on my own. And I'm proud of myself for that. And kind of going through those messy 2 years, it wasn't until this year, going into the spring probably, where I felt like I'm completely healed from all of it, because it was quite dramatic. But yeah, life always has challenges in it. So it's a matter of just finding the silver lining.
Yeah, 100%. Big believer in the silver linings. What's one thing that you wish our listeners knew about your business?
What's one thing? Yeah. I think the one thing people should know about my business is really how passionate I am about what I do. At the end of the day, I'm a nurse. I have a very strong core of ethics, and that might be a horrible business model, because if I don't think it's going to be beneficial for you, if I don't think I'm going to meet those expectations that you have, then we're not doing it. And I'm very honest and ethical when it comes to suggestions of treatments and goals. And I think that's what people need to know about me, is that, you can come in, my consultations are complimentary. You have access to me virtually or in person that time. And, 20 to 30 minutes with me. Follow-ups are free too. top-ups of, you know, when we need to do Botox, if there's a little tweakment that we need to do, that's complimentary too. And yeah, I think, and I really, really love what I do now. And I loved working in my other field too. And I still have a soft spot, for that sector.
Yeah.
But finally, I found something where like my skills, I'm a huge science nerd. I love, like, you know, I had a skincare company in here on Friday, and I was asking them some pretty hard questions, and they didn't know. They're like, I don't even know like the percentage of this, and I don't know, like, because that's where my brain goes. And so to be in a field where I can bring like artistry and that science together and make people feel good, because nursing, it can be kind of, that's why I got into nursing in particular. I got into nursing because I want to make people feel good, and it makes me feel good. I am such a giver that way, naturally. So to have people be like, oh, thank you, Ashley, like I boosted that confidence, or, you know, made them feel a certain way. And I'm like, you have the canvas, you know, I enhanced like your beautiful canvas. So I think that's what separates me from a lot of people. I'm the business owner. I'm also the main injector. I do have another injector as well. But I'm still hands-on in it. And that's never going to change. I'm always going to be doing this forever, Sean, until I'm like 100, or until these don't work anymore.
Right. Amazing. Well, hey, look, amazing conversation. That was a lot of fun. If we kept going, we could probably go for another hour. Easy, very knowledgeable, very insightful. I think a lot of people took a lot from this conversation. And I just wanted to thank you very much for coming on the show, and hopefully maybe be able to have an opportunity to do this down the line.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com, or call 705-413-3775.